I'm back to Investing with Confidence. I am your host, Joshua David, talking about the do's and the don'ts of the financial markets, an online trading academy, the sponsor of Investing with Confidence, on their 25th year, teaching valuable skills to average people here in Bloomington, all of Minnesota, how to trade and invest in the financial markets. If you're brand new, that's a great thing, teaching you from the bottom up. If you happen to miss that investing class right here in Bloomington or virtually, you can call 952-814-4410 or just text the word invest to the number 484848, and we'll send you a link back to pick a date for that class, whether it's virtual or right here in Bloomington. Also, before I forget, I'm supposed to say hello to Carrie in Elk River, so I just want to make sure I get that out there today. So, Al, as I talked about in the last section, about that article that I read this last week in Yahoo Finance about there was 42% of people say they're not in the stock market because they feel they don't have enough money to invest. Well, I mean, I kicked the show off with talking a little bit about some of these different stocks and stuff, and especially Tesla, a very expensive stock. So yeah, a lot of people think they don't have enough cash or capital to trade in the financial markets. Well, it's one of those things, you don't know what you don't know. We talk about it every single week, but there's other assets. I mean, that's why we're seeing so many people come to Online Trading Academy as well, because understand these other assets that are available that give you leverage, which allows average people or average investors to get into the market at a lower amount of cash. So talk about what those are, so our listeners understand, okay, these are the opportunities that we can use. Plus, they're open 24 hours a day.
Yeah. There's when you talk about that 42% that aren't in the market because they don't feel they have enough, there's two reasons that they feel they don't have enough. One is that by the time all of their bills are paid, there isn't enough left over. That's where those additional sources of income can come in and be handy. And the other is that they think it's too expensive to be in the market. And when you look at the stock market, it is expensive. So what's the alternative? Well, there are assets, and this is one of the reasons, by the way, these assets are one of the reasons that the pros, the smart money, do so much better than the public. They're using these other assets that are available to you that they typically are not talking to you about, but they're using them on a regular basis to bring in cash on a short-term basis. So if you're in that situation where you don't have enough after your bills are paid, maybe there's something that you can do to increase the amount of money you have coming in. Maybe it's using one of these assets that I'm going to talk about. And also, if you think it costs too much money to be in the stock market, you may be right, but there are ways to participate in the financial markets with a smaller amount of money.
Well, as you were talking about that, there is missed opportunity, right? I mean, as I mentioned with what I say, Tesla was up a huge percent, a bigly in percent this past week or
Right.
past month. These different things up big for the month. That's opportunity cost that people are not understanding and taking advantage of.
Right. And one of the assets that I'm going to be talking about is options. And there are
Yeah.
ways with options, if you wanted to participate, and you could have participated in that big move up in Tesla without owning the stock. How can you do that? Well, we'll show you. If you want to come into one of these classes, we'll show you how you can participate with a much smaller amount of money up front and still participate actually with a percent return that could be much higher than it was with the stock on its own.
So basically, you using less capital to do that.
You're
right?
using less capital. You're just being more efficient with the capital you have.
Makes sense.
But it allows people that don't have huge portfolios to still participate in these assets that are having good moves.
Yeah, and actually, when you say that too, it's huge amounts of capital is a relative term. But going back to that article, it actually said that people can get in the markets with a few $100s, right?
You can, absolutely.
And that's what a leveraged asset will allow you to do, especially that, using options, you're basically buying stocks at a discount. And one thing I want to just comment on, you talked about a little bit earlier, just to double down, is the people just don't have enough to spill over and fill a wealth bucket, because you talked
Right.
about extra sources of cash flow. Well, why not trying and looking at the market and seeing if that's an opportunity?
Yeah.
These leveraged assets allow people to use that, obviously, leverage,
Right.
and get into these markets.
Yeah.
And I know you talk about that, and you explain that in detail in these investing classes. It's really hands-on when people come to these investing classes right here in Bloomington. So I want to give away some tickets to right here in Bloomington, or even virtually. We come straight to your house, which is actually virtual. Call 952 814-4410, or you can just text the word invest to the number 484848. We'll send you a text right back automatically with a link. That link is otamin.com. That's otaminn.com. So if you're on your computer, you can go straight there on the interweb. So Al, also, I'm going to give away a financial quick start kit.
Let's do that.
Just to get set up with that. That'll help you get started right away. So you talked about options, which is a leveraged asset to use on stocks. So you're basically buying stock at a discount just to make it easy. So talk about those other two markets that are 24 hours a day, because I'm sure a lot of our listeners probably work during the day, and the stock market is just not available to utilize. So what are those other two assets?
Yeah, the other two assets, and the three assets that we're talking about, options being one, and these other two are what we call leveraged assets. But two of them, the futures market and the foreign exchange market, trade virtually around the clock. So you do not have to just be available during the 6.5 hours that the stock market's open to be able to benefit from the financial markets. Typically, when people think of the financial market, they're thinking of just stock and mutual funds.
Well, that's all they talk about on TV.
Well, right, and that's what you are guided towards by your financial advisor, because it's the most profitable for them, and it's the easiest one for them to function with or to use. Their goal really is to go out and get more assets to bring into the firm so they can make money off of you. And by the way, these assets, these other assets, futures, Forex, and then the options market, big companies are using those. People like Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett trades options and makes $7-8 billion a year just with one option strategy that he uses. The other thing, in addition to, and I think it was talked about in this article you mentioned, in addition to people feeling they don't have enough, is the fear of volatility.
Yeah.
And the ironic thing there is that it's the volatility that can really help you to increase the additional amount of money you have.
Yeah.
Volatility is just a tool to use. It's not something you should fear. And actually, our students look forward to more volatility, the better, I guess, is how we look at
the
it.
The strategy that Online Trading Academy has really embraces volatility, because that's what you want.
Right.
You want things to be moving because that's where opportunity is.
Right. And, when you look at, we've talked about now 3 additional assets in addition to stock. We talked about options, futures, and Forex. People might be thinking, well, I have to learn a strategy for futures. I have to learn a strategy for options. I have to learn a strategy for Forex. Another one for stock. You don't. What we have done is created a strategy. We call it core strategy. It's an investment foundation strategy that basically follows a number of steps, regardless of what you're trading, regardless of the time frame. Some people are looking at daily or weekly income. Some people are just looking at long-term wealth, maybe only making an investment once or twice a year. It's that same strategy which really simplifies things, and it concentrates on the one thing that really is important, the most important thing, regardless of what you're trading or investing in, and that's the proper price. The proper price to get into something where you're going to have the potential for the greatest amount of profit and the potential for the greatest opportunity of it working in your favor. Typically, Wall Street ignores price. When you go into a financial advisor with whatever amount of money you have, they're going to tell you the important thing is just getting in the market, and they disregard the current price. They also disregard taking profits when you have them. And how many of you out there have been told you can have an insurance policy on your portfolio or some kind of risk management strategy? It's not diversification. Diversification on its own, the way Wall Street will present it, is typically having a number of different stocks that cover different areas of the economy, or a grouping of mutual funds, but they're all in the same asset, all in the same market, which is the stock market. True diversification has you using different assets that are not necessarily correlated to each other. And it's just the reason that people might fear futures, Forex, and options is that they just don't know about them. Yep. It's true of anything that you don't know about. It's the fear of something negative happening in the future. Well, if you get the right education that teaches you not only the basics of it, but how to use it, how to use these different assets in different market conditions, and also trying to identify one that is appropriate for you.
Yeah.
Everybody's unique, and what is right for one person might not be right for another person.
Yeah, and it's just, since we're referencing this article here again, I mean, I'm going to read a little quote here that they're saying here, just because Al was talking and made a great point about not needing 4 different strategies. This article says, what's really important is, regardless of your age, it is to really think about diversification. So make sure that you're not in a single stock that you're investing in, but instead of a range that covers all asset classes like stocks, options, futures, forex, that's appropriate to the risk tolerance for you. So it's about being diversified in other asset classes. I mean, you think
Correct.
about it right now, Al. Stocks are at all-time highs. I know there's a lot of listeners thinking, "Hey, stocks are going up. It's great," but you know what? They're fearful of a market crash.
Yeah.
So it's about being diversified in other assets, so that way you're not at risk to the market. It helps you be diversified and not taking big losses. Because when certain things are going down, certain things are going up in other markets, like the futures market. So in these investing classes, Al, you really dive into what that diversification really looks like, what stocks, how they relate to options and futures and forex, and how investors can utilize these other markets to have income potential. I mean, you talked about it earlier. Most people just only have that one source, and they don't have enough to fill a wealth bucket, a 401k or IRA. So if you want to call 952 814 4410. We have investing classes right here in Bloomington. We actually got a busy day, a couple classes going on here today. It's nice seeing so many people here in the center learning about how to trade and invest in the markets. But it's really all about making smart investing decisions. 952 814 4410. Or you can just text the word invest to the number 484848. When you do that, you'll get a text back right away with our link, which is otamin.com. That's otamin.com. Also in that text is going to be a little preview video of what you're going to learn and understand, the different techniques and concepts we're going to talk about in this investing classes. So you get a preview of that investing class in that text that you get back. Also, I'm going to give away the Halloween snack pack.
Oh, here we
Since
go.
we're talking about candy this weekend, we got a snack pack. It's going to be a financial quick start kit with some cryptocurrency. So a little snack for our listeners that call in right now for this investing class. Coming up next, I want to talk about retirement, since we're kind of alluding to that a little bit with filling an extra bucket of capital, how to utilize that. But also you were talking about insurance policies on portfolios. We're going to get into that as well. 952 814 4410. We'll be right back.